Hey everybody, Jesse Reagan here with a couple of awesome people that are really, really good at helping others share their stories. So that's what this big hangout's going to be about today. I know that we've been working a lot on just articulating our posts, sharing our story. There's been some really great questions inside of the group that we're going to get to today. First of all, I want to say, and I was just talking with Kelsey and Mark about this, how proud I am of you guys. You saw my live video that I did in there inside of the group. And if you're watching this on a recording, just go to the file section of the group, and then there's going to be a link to some posts inside of there. Or just go to the videos and look for live videos. But the last live video I did, I just kind of mentioned, you know, some things on here that were really important to remember as far as how we're pressing forward and the importance that your page has to be about you first. Mark did a live video on it, which if you guys haven't seen, it's really good. But he said there's no amount of perfect advertising that can fix a bad page, basically. So you need to remember that this part here, sometimes people, I have to say you guys have been incredibly patient. We've done these trainings a lot now, and a lot of times people get really anxious to just start hitting the ads because they think it can kind of skip over stuff, but you can't. And you guys are really doing well. You're really patient. You're really applying yourself. So from my heart to you, super proud of you guys. You guys are doing a fantastic job. So I applaud you. I can tell you're really taking time, not worrying about the results right now, just focusing on working on your posts and working on your page. So this is very important. And you know what? Before we begin, Mark, we have kind of a special thing we're going to be doing here. On Mark actually is you guys saw him in module 2. He did some interviews, and Mark, just kind of talk about you had someone reach out to you here, and she's on right now. That just talk about how that conversation got started and how you wanted to include this in the hangout here.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to preface the conversation and kind of piggyback on what you were talking about, that no perfect advertising can overcome shitty results. So what that means is, like, there are really, I'm an advertising expert. I'm a copywriter, and I get to see the biggest companies in the world launch amazing advertising that bombs. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what that means. There's two different types of advertising, two different main types of advertising. There's advertising that tells you something and pushes a message on you, even if it's done with questions. So what that means is, do you want to lose weight? Do you want a happier, healthy life? No, these are generic questions that you could be selling me anything. Of course I do. Don't be condescending, because that is condescending. When you ask people those questions in 2017, it's condescending. The answer is yes, they do. Next. Now, the reason why I bring that up is, in order for people to listen to a single word you have to say, you have to open up. You have to invite them into your world. You have to be vulnerable. You have to say something that connects with them. You have to say something that they can identify with. In other words, what is going on in your life? What do you want? What are you achieving? What are you trying to achieve? What challenges are you bumping up against? What can you talk about that I can identify with, that I can see myself in you? Because if you're not doing that, you can spend thousands of dollars a day on advertising and you'll be broke very quickly. However, you can spend a fraction of that amount of money by sharing yourself, by opening up, and by giving people what they need to hear, what they're going through, that they're not alone, that it's not their fault. We need to soften up the conversation. A big company, a big brand, they can spend millions of dollars and launch amazing advertising. And it may work and it may not, but they have the ability to absorb those losses because eventually they're going to find what works and get their ROI. The way we do it, individuals, the way we market ourselves is all based on who we are as individuals. That is the number one asset that we have that nobody else has. And if you aren't showcasing and spotlighting that, you're not connecting with people. And therefore you're wasting your time, your money, and their time. The people that you want to help, the people that you want to bring on your team, the people that you want to help create a better life with, collaboratively. So, Jesse, the reason why we're having a guest, I just want to have a quick download on how we can help everybody in this group organize all the different facets of their life. I think somebody asked that.
Yeah.
When do I post workout videos? When do I post the videos that talk about my past? When do I post the videos that talk about what I want? You know, there's these different subjects, different ways that we can enter into a conversation that connects with people. And we have to be dynamic in how we have these conversations. If you talk about what you don't like about your life and what's going on that is wrong with your life every day, you become a complainer, a whiner. Nobody's going to connect with that. If you are too authoritative and you act like you're too successful, even if you're not, and even if you are, people don't connect with that. Sometimes it feels too pie in the sky, and sometimes it feels, you know, if you're like boasting how good you are, and sometimes it feels just bad when you're complaining all the time. Nobody wants to connect with that. Nobody wants to be a part of that. So how do you show up? How do you inspire people? Well, the number one answer is just being you. Be aware of what's going on in your life. Talk about those things openly. If you are having a problem getting traction, you need to stop contriving and you need to start connecting with what you're doing right now. What do you want right now? What are you bumping up against right now? What breakthroughs have you had right now? Everybody has them every single day because we're always creating. We're always becoming. And we're always becoming where our attention is right now, what we're talking about right now. Let people in on that. One more thing before we get to this quick interview. When you do generic, broad advertising, I want you to imagine what you're actually doing is putting your hand out and resisting people from reaching out to you because you're facading. You're creating an image that isn't true to who you are. And people sniff that out so fast these days. It's insane. If you're saying you're telling your story and you're not getting validation, you're not being vulnerable. Results do not lie. So do not go about this saying, well, if I tell my story and it doesn't work, then this doesn't work. That's not true. There's a right and wrong way to do things. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. So if you're telling your story with an agenda of getting specific results, you're not being vulnerable. You're not being real. Drop the agenda, drop the facade, get in touch with and connect with your pain points, your vision, your dream. If you want to demonstrate for people who want to change their lives how Beachbody is the answer, then demonstrate it. Show up for people. Be an advocate for them. You do not need to be where you want to be in order to do that. That is one of the biggest falsities and lies you could ever tell yourself. Be where you're at and let people see into your world, and your results will the momentum it will insanely skyrocket in the momentum that you'll be able to achieve. In other words, when you get validation on something, that's momentum. And then you keep doing more of that. And you keep connecting with those people. You keep diving in to that conversation with those people if you're doing a free group or however it is that you're corralling people into a more organized environment to have a conversation once you've connected with them. You know, you are the leader. You need to demonstrate that. And you need to be willing to put yourself out there and watch it bomb. It happens to me all the time. I bomb all the time. And then you know what I do? I try something else. Because there is no failing. There's only giving up. And if you're not getting the results you want, there's only one person who is responsible, and it's you. Break down that word, responsibility. Responsibility. Do you have the ability to respond to shitty results? The answer is in your next best decision, your next best move. And that's the only thing that we can do. So please, everybody, before we go any further, have compassion for yourself. Shine compassion on yourself, because everybody here deserves to be successful. And we are here to support you in revealing what that means for you. Because the answer is not across the board the same, except that you need to open up and be vulnerable. How you showcase that is individual to everybody here. And you know how to do that. You know how to be you. You do it every day. Now, the only thing we're asking you is to document it in a way and frame it in a way that people can connect with. That's it. And if you can teach your team members how to do the same thing, you will build abundance quickly. But you have to be willing to drop the facade, and you have to be willing to be real with the results that you get. If they're not what you want, try something else. Don't tell the story about, well, this doesn't work. It does work. I do it every day. Jesse does it every day. My clients do it every day. There's no question this works. But you have to figure out the right formula for you. So there's all these different aspects in our lives. Organize them in a way that is in the hierarchy of what is important to you. Where do you spend the majority of your time, energy, and emphasis? What do you want? What are you really talking and thinking about? Why haven't you gotten what you want? Talk about it. Be open about it. That's how you draw people into your personal brand. And yes, you are a personal brand. Workout videos all the time don't work. Sad sob stories all the time don't work. Excitement all the time doesn't work. Trying to tell people how to be happy and healthier all the time doesn't work. All of those pieces need to be dynamically mixed in how you show up on your page every day. Look for your likes, look for what's getting validation, and don't take anything personally, because you could only put yourself out there and get feedback. That's all we can do. We can't control the feedback. Just like in a personal relationship. If I say something that pisses off somebody in my life, all I can do is take responsibility for what I said. I can't control how they react to me or how they respond to me. Nobody can. So you, in this relationship that you're developing with total strangers, can't take it personally. You can only control how you show up. And the more that you're willing to let go of the facade and being vulnerable, I guarantee the faster you will gain validation, results, and momentum.
Mark, so, I have one more thing. I want to before, because we need to get to this interview. But I want to talk to Kelsey quick. Kelsey, can you unmute yourself? Because Mark said something, you guys, I want you to understand. He said something really important. He said you could spend tens of thousands of dollars a day and it won't matter. You'll just be taking your money. You may as well drive down the interstate and throw money out the window, because that's what you're going to gain from it, right? But he said, if you kind of read between the lines there, if you have a really good page and you really worked on your posts, and like he said there, if you really shared your story and every aspect of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And you're sharing it in a way that you're working on yourself, it only takes a little bit of advertising to be effective. And I want to give you a perfect example right here, Kelsey. Kelsey set her page up so well, and she's so good at telling her story. And I know Mark would agree with this, that she set it up so well in 2015 that by 2016, she literally didn't run any ads. I think she ran like $23 worth of ads the whole year. Okay, and that was just some testing, and I don't even think you were really doing anything. Yeah. She got married last year. She traveled to New Zealand for a month. I mean, she was gone for like 2 months for her wedding and honeymoon and all that. I mean, it was planning and chaos in her life. And she didn't run any ads, but you guys, she hit Success Club 10 through 20 every single month directly from her like page. Kelsey, how did you do that without ads?
Basically by doing what you guys are all being advised to do right now. I take my craft posting pretty, like, not like I take it seriously. I don't mean it that way, but like I always try and share a piece of my story and invite people into my world and get vulnerable. I don't think that I'm not like, oh, I'm doing this too much, like I'm being too open or I'm being too vulnerable, I'm sharing too much, or I'm not like overanalyzing what I'm posting. I'm just sharing naturally about my life and inviting people into my world. Like, I love that Mark said that, because it's so important. And I know that that's why people feel comfortable with me, because when I message people and I have conversations with people, they flat out tell me, and I've sent Jesse multiple screenshots, like, this is why I felt comfortable sending you this message, because I also have a bad relationship with my father's dad or my child's dad. And I hope that that, we could fix it. So I saw myself in you. And I also struggled with depression. And I love that you talk about that. It's not easy. And thank you so much for sharing your struggles with weight gains each time. That can't be easy to do. Like, people tell me these things, so I'm not making it up. And he's not making it up. We're not making it up. That actually is what draws people into you without advertising. If you want to add advertising in, which you should, and I definitely have in the past before too, it's great. But to have that solid foundation of how to talk about things and make people trust you, it makes closing sales so much easier because people already trust you. So
Kelsey, we were talking about this before, we went live on here, and you were saying how impressed you were with all the posts that people were sharing and them working on their page and just working on their story. Any shout outs, anybody? Because you're the queen of doing this right. If anyone, because you guys, she doesn't have a huge page, 13,000. I mean, it's big, but not huge. And she's getting business from it every day. So you need to realize you don't have to build the Empire State Building here. All you need to do is just build yourself a strong foundation, and you do it with your stories, and you do it. And then we'll show you how to bring in people, but it's not about how much advertising you need to do. We're going to give you a ton of that. Trust me. But it all comes down to this. I could argue this is the most important aspect of everything you do in all of this training. So
also, we don't want to glorify paid advertising, dark posts and all that. They like, I think the crux of this is dark posts, paid advertising don't fix a bad page.
No, they don't.
All they do, all paid advertising does is take your bad results and magnify them.
Yeah, it puts a big spotlight on it.
Yeah. So and that hurts, and that is it's difficult to deal with when you feel like you're doing the right things, but you're not, and you're still expecting good results. Just to plot this out, let's get to the interview, and then I also wanted to answer some of the questions that have been left because there's some good questions.
Yeah, Kelsey will just go through one or two posts, and then we'll do the interview right now. So I just want to, because I promised them we would go through a couple of them. So Kelsey, any of them that you see?
So there was a couple that really stood out to me. I forgot his name, but his name is TNG Team Fit. He was talking about what gets him pumped up and like little simple things. He broke it up really well, used some emojis, and then he asked the question at the end, which I think is so great. There was another one, Erin Beckham. The picture is so what we talk about. Like, it's actually kind of blurry because she's tickling her son, it looks like. And she's talking about, stay-at-home moms and what it's like, and talking about funny things like you might not even get to shower. And by the way, like, that's all good, moms. Like, buy all the wine, like, enjoy parenting, blah, blah, blah. Like, really good broken up posts. And then there was another lady who posted a couple that were really great about sharing her story. I think she struggled with alcoholism, and she really broke it down. Shannon, it looks like, is her name. So, used some captivating pictures, broke it down. And I think alcoholism being something that people would probably be scared to talk about, she would be a good one to look at and see how she kind of outlines that. So.
Okay, so let's start this interview. And Kelsey, too, if you want to fire any questions away on the interview as well or chime in, feel free. Good luck with Mark, though. No, I'm just kidding. But Mark, unmute yourself, please. And then I'll let you just run this thing because you ask so many better questions than I do.
I don't know about that.
Well, Mark has had a lot of crazy stuff happen, so I think he has a lot of just life experience that he can pull from that helps. And he's also a living example of being real. So if you guys want,
sometimes a little too real. Believe me, in my own personal relationships, it's not always received very well.
No, but I mean, he's unfiltered. Sometimes probably too unfiltered, but as far as from a personal side, but he's also real. He practices what he preaches, and I think that you guys need to take that away from there. That he's not pretending to be someone he's not. This is who it is, and this is why he's made a lot of money, and he's made his clients a lot of money because he knows how to do this stuff, and that's why we should feel pretty darn lucky to have him on. And let's do now. Can you unmute yourself? I'm not even. I want.
Hinano.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I am horrible, but people always say even my last name wrong. I get Regan a lot.
Hard vowels, Jesse.
All right, so Mark, you just take over, and then we have about, let's try to do about 20, 25 minutes tops.
So, Hinanu, you and I talked the other day. If you could just first preface this conversation, where are you? What are you feeling? What challenges are you bumping up against? And why are they stopping you or slowing you down from owning this experience and creating it to be what you want?
I think it's just me. I'm not saying this is every mom, but after having my kids, I completely feel like I've lost my identity. I was a corporate pilot before, and I was traveling everywhere. And then all of a sudden I'm at home, not going anywhere. And so I feel completely lost. Like I don't.
So right there is an identification factor that is enormous. And really not just with stay-at-home moms, but people in general, people who have lost themselves in their obligations and responsibilities in life.
Mm-hmm.
If you were able to express that clearly, have you ever felt like you just lost everything that defined who you are?
Yeah, I did.
But you asked that question to people?
No, I have not asked.
Well, that's an identification factor. So we're always looking at ourselves to determine who our avatar is. Our avatar is our ideal prospect, our ideal team member, right? In this case. Mm-hmm. So you just described an identification factor that how many people do you think on this planet feel?
Probably a lot.
Millions.
My wife is one of them.
Right?
Yeah.
So that, I don't want to even gloss over this because Hinanu is talking about something that is a huge identification factor and she didn't even notice. Why? Because she doesn't feel it. She doesn't feel like there's any value in what she just said, even though what she just said has so much value because it has the ability to connect with people, with women just like her. So if she was able to talk about that, let's just not even talking about a dark post. Let's just talk about a post where you're putting the camera up to your face, you're doing a selfie video, and you're talking about, oh my God, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I used to live a high-powered lifestyle, and I still do to a certain degree, but since I've had my kids, I've lost myself. I've lost the definition of who I am in my life and what I want. And how do you get anywhere if you don't even know who you are and what you want? Do you ever feel like that? So so there is a video, and so it's reciprocity marketing. It's giving free value. It's feeling connected with what you're going through so that people can identify with it. If you don't put that video out where you're just transparently talking about your experience as what feels like a single mom because your husband is gone so much, he's also a pilot, and is gone for days, weeks at a time. And that's a hard thing to deal with when you are feeling lost, when you don't feel connected to yourself, when you don't feel connected to your vision and dreams, and you feel like your life is just a repetitive wake up, take care of other people, survive as much as I can, go to sleep, repeat. Yeah. It doesn't feel good. But how many people, how many women are going through that right now? That's a major identification factor. What else is going on in your life, Hinanu?
Well, that's, I'm sure a lot, but that's kind of a wall. Like, I just feel like I'm just at a wall.
And huge. That's huge. Everybody pay attention to that word, wall. What does that mean? It means it's resistance. What is resistance? Resistance is focusing on the things or giving our attention to the things that we don't want. Hinanu, you're spending a lot of time feeding the bad wolf. Didn't we talk about that?
Yeah.
The good and bad wolf. So there's a Native American story, a grandfather talking to his grandson. Grandson, he says there are two wolves that live within each of us, the good wolf and the bad wolf. The grandson asks, which wolf wins? The grandfather says, the wolf you feed. And so every person watching this needs to ask themselves, what wolf are you feeding? Are you feeding the good wolf or the bad wolf? And if you're feeding the bad wolf, what you're actually doing is creating disconnection with your audience. You're creating disconnection with yourself by telling yourself a story that isn't true. You have a ton of value, Hinanu. You just, in your opening sentence, revealed a ton of value that you're not using, that you're not leveraging, that you're not diving into, that you're not opening up about. Today, do a video talking about what it feels like to virtually be a stay-at-home single mom who is struggling to find her identity again after giving birth. And talk about what you're doing to achieve those things. How you know that the only way to change your life is starting to change yourself. That you don't change circumstances, you change what you're doing, what you're feeling, what you're putting your attention upon, and the story you're telling. Because when you change those things, reality changes without you having to do much of anything. And you're like, wow, that just happened. Mm-hmm. But if you don't put the beacon out there, and that's what these reciprocity videos are, like what I'm saying to Hanano, what I'm saying to you, is put that video out there and don't ask for a thing. Have your foundation videos just on a daily basis. Make it a priority to have a conversation with this thing. Because on the other side of this thing is your tribe. And they're going through the same things that you're going through right now. And unless you give them a beacon, unless you give them a way to connect with you, they have no clue you exist.
Mark, I want to interrupt you one quick. I love what you just said. Having a conversation, you're just pointing it up there and having a conversation, right? That's all it is. Yep. I mean, so I love that you said that. It's, and a lot of times for people, I think they just need little shifts, little analogies like that to help them realize it's not as big of a deal as they think it is to start being real. And it just
it's not a big deal. And in fact, it is psyching ourselves up that creates the resistance to doing it. Just do it. And it's going to be totally imperfect. And that's great. That's what you want because you're uncomfortable. And if you don't lean into that discomfort and start telling your story, you're a beautiful woman. You've lived an interesting life. You have a lot to say and you're going somewhere. Invite people on that journey and be advocates in each other's lives to get there. That's what being a Beachbody coach is all about. Underneath the products, the business plan, the making the money, the doing the videos, it is showing up for each other. Let me just kind of dive into that a little bit more. Think about the things that you appreciate. What does it feel like to appreciate something in your life? Like Hinano, who do you appreciate in your life right now?
My husband.
Your husband. Why do you appreciate him?
Just because he supports me no matter what. I mean,
does your husband also do things that you don't appreciate?
Probably.
And you have a choice, right?
Yeah.
You have a choice on what wolf to feed, whether to appreciate or judge, right? So when you appreciate something that you could just as easily judge, what does appreciation do? Well, it does exactly what the word says. It appreciates. It grows. It becomes bigger. It becomes more open. It becomes more free. It erases and dissolves whatever BS was getting in the way of it really coming out. We all have the ability to focus on what we judge or what we appreciate at any moment of any day. And the majority of us, because of insecurity, because of scarcity, because of fear, judge. And judgment pushes away. Appreciation pulls towards you. So whenever you're talking, whether it's in your life, everyday life, it's in your own head, it's with the people you love, or it's trying to have a conversation with people you've never met, the more that you shine appreciation on people, the more they're going to show up for you. It's cyclical. Appreciation appreciates.
Mark, I love that. Can I sorry to interrupt, but I just love what you just said. So I want to just kind of frame it up a little bit.
Go.
He's giving you a whole idea for kind of how you are articulating your posts through appreciation. And Mark actually has a saying, what is it? The law of attention.
Yeah.
And if you focus on things that you basically get what you give. And if you are generous in your appreciation for others, I guarantee you that will come back to you in spades. Mm-hmm. And even talking about things that you appreciate. What if you appreciate a good cup of coffee? You know, just stuff like that.
So, a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I mean, you do it all the time, right?
I do it all the time. Sometimes I talk about just utter nonsense, and it gets engagement, and it gets, it's like a copywriter friend of mine named Scott Mills. He lives 20 minutes away from me, and I took him on as a partner because I want to build him up as a copywriter. I want him to be as good as me. I know that sounds egotistical. I want him to be as good as me. I want him to know how to interview people. I want him to know how to advocate for them. I want him to learn how to write better copy that is simpler, that gets rid of all the condescension. I'm still working on that. And I'm trying to build him up. Now, he has a lot of limiting beliefs about who he is and what he can contribute and how he can show up. And so he's telling me a story about his fear, his insecurities, the past dictating the future, and we all do that. Now, the reason why I said shine compassion on yourselves earlier is because when you do that, it softens the judgment that you have towards your present experience, your present circumstances. If you don't soften your judgment towards what's happening in your life right now, you're going to keep giving your attention to it, and you're going to keep on becoming more of it, and you're going to keep on experiencing it until you're as blue in the face as a Smurf. So when you shine compassion on yourself, like Hinano, when you shine compassion on not having the conversation that we just talked about with people, with women who are also stay-at-home moms, whether they're single, whether they feel single, whether in happy marriages or unhappy marriages, they are a shell, a skeleton of who they know they can be. And they need somebody to just identify it, help them see it. Because when you can give people that epiphany, that instant realization, that instant awareness, they look to you for more. Mm-hmm. That's psychologically, heuristically, how we function in life. We connect through stories. And if our stories resonate, we become lifelong partners. And that's what you want in Beachbody. You want lifelong partners. Hananu, how long have you been aware of one of your biggest identification factors and haven't talked about it?
A while.
A while. And why?
I don't know.
What's up?
I don't know.
Do better. What stopped you? You do know.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I was, like when I had my daughter, my first one, everyone told me to, go join a mom's group. And I'm sorry, I'm going to cry.
Don't ever apologize for how you feel.
Okay, apologize for that then. So everyone told me to go, go join a mom's group. But to me, it was just like that was the worst thought, is to be in this, just to be that typical mom. Like that's not my life. I mean, I honestly don't really like kids. I like my kids, but I can't stand other people's kids. But to be in that mom category, I don't know, it didn't fit well.
Okay, let's dive down that a little. It doesn't feel right to be classified as a stay-at-home mom. Now, there's a reason for that. You feel, and being a mom is beautiful. Being a dad, I'm a dad. It's beautiful. Yeah. But we're also individuals who have our own hopes, dreams, desires. So what are you pushing down? What are you pushing away within yourself that you're not allowing to come out because of identifying with this role, but not identifying it in a way that is who you really are, because you're bigger. You have a vision and it wants to become. What is that vision? Who is this version of yourself that you're not allowing to feel empowered? Who is this empowered version of Hinano? What does she look like? What is she doing right now in this alternate universe right now?
This may sound weird. I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing as a parent. Like the typical mom cleans the house, cooks 3 meals a day. Like that's not what I grew up. That's not what I do. And my alternate is, I guess, a little of that, but I want to show my kids me. Like actually me, not who society says I should be. Like I had people ask me, I ride Harleys. I had people ask me, well, are you going to sell your motorcycle once you have your kid? And it's just like, why would I do that? Like, I'm not going to change who I am just because I have kids now and to fit the mold of what you think I should be doing. I kind of got lost on what you asked me.
Two things. Number one, the reason you feel this way, and this is my opinion, and this is me just watching you, is you are an empowered leader, and you're not living the life of a leader. And you want to. It's ingrained in your cells, and you're repressing it. Everything you're talking about right now is diving deeper into the story of being that stay-at-home mom. And you have just laid on us a dozen identification factors that a lot of women are dealing with. And you get to be their advocate. You get to show up and be a leader for them, to show them how they can start changing, transforming their lives and becoming what they want right now by journeying with you, because that's where you're going. You can ask them, do you want to continue like me, like I was? Do you want to continue feeding into this feeling that what you're doing, while it's beautiful, isn't enough for you? Do you want to just simply accept that and choose now what you're going to do with it? And I'm giving you an ability to take that feeling of not being enough, of not living your potential, of not even tapping into your potential, and help you reveal it now. So that tomorrow morning when you wake up, you're going to be telling a brand new story of, wow, I have so much more to give, and I'm only just discovering what that means and what that is.
Hey, Mark.
Nano to think.
Couple things. First, someone, Monique on here said, I drive a Ninja. Drive that Harley. So, and I also want to say a lot of the stuff that you kind of said in here, it's creepy how much it reminds me of my wife, who is, by the way, very successful on social media. She didn't want to have kids. You know, she didn't. I mean, we're beyond grateful for our daughter and everything. But, you know, I mean, my wife is not a kid person. She's not. But she's an amazing mom, and I'm guessing you are too. So just because you're not a total kid person doesn't mean that you're not an amazing mom, which you probably already know that. But also, I just want you to realize the things that you're saying remind me of my wife. And that is a compliment. So because my wife is an amazing person, and she does it all right on here on social media, and she shares her story, and she's real. So you've got all the tools already right in front of you.
Yep.
So just had to say that.
You're speaking the tools. You're speaking them. You are an empowered leader who is not living the life of a leader, and that's depressing.
Well, I guess I just didn't. I contacted you because I didn't know. I mean, I could feel like I have a story to tell, but I didn't know how to put it together. I didn't know how to, bring it out.
So if we talk for another hour, I guarantee we'll find another 2 dozen identification factors, but that's not going to help you. You have a major identification factor, and it's a massive rabbit hole. You need to start doing that today. You need to, I don't care if you're holding your kid. I don't care if there's screaming in your ears. You're going to still hold this to your face, and you're going to talk about this. And right now, you're just talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to have the agenda of what ad am I going to run next. I don't want you to even think about paid ads. I want you to take this camera, this phone. I want you to go live on Facebook. I want you to stumble around. I want you to find your voice and tell your story. Because the moment you find your voice, and the best way to do it is just like a comedian. A comedian, when they are working on new material, they go out there. They go out in front of a stage, in front of a crowd, on the stage in front of a crowd. They don't know necessarily what they're going to be saying, or they have just a tiny bit of material, and they're just going to try it. That's what you're doing. You're building your shtick. You're building your brand, and you need to find your voice. You
Mark,
have
I
an
have a
amazing
question.
Go.
Question. Well, actually, it's for Kelsey too, because I see Kelsey taking notes and writing things down. and which I'm glad. And she's, like you said, she doesn't think she knows it all. None of us here do. But Kelsey, unmute yourself, because Mark mentioned something about whenever you're writing, he's doing both posts or anything. Do you, when you write a post, generally speaking, 90% of them or 95%, do you ever think about what business is it going to drum up, or are you just sharing?
I think you know the answer to that. No, just naturally sharing, and I think that it's so cool to hear Hinano share this story being a mom too, because I know how hard it is to just go out there and say the like stuff that you think people are going to judge you for. But I promise you, girl, like that's the stuff that is going to drive message. It will. I don't think about that when I'm writing posts, but every time I share something about my kid being crazy or pissing me off or drinking wine because she's insane, or I call her a tiny terrorist and people think it's funny, like that's the kind of stuff people are like, thank you for being real, because being a mom is hard and everyone makes it look like you have to be so perfect and blah, blah, blah. But no, I just share it, you know, and people appreciate that, you know.
Do you
that
have,
word keeps coming up, but
Kelsey, do you have posts that you
you just use the, see what Kelsey is, appreciate, and it appreciates.
Yeah, she didn't actually say that. Kelsey, do you have posts, because you talk about some, you know, you have a history with drugs and alcohol, and you know, posts that would be very uncomfortable for some people. How do people kind of just get over that sometimes, and just and also how is it feeling? How does it make you feel when you do these posts, when you write stuff that, even when you started off, how did it make you feel?
Yeah, when I started off, it was almost impossible. I would sit there and I would just like cry and type it. Like it would not have been something I could have done a live video about when I first started. It had to be a post. And I would sit down and I would just cry and I would write it and I would get it out. And then what I would have to do, and I'm just being honest, I would drink wine while I was doing it because it stressed me out that I had to say it, but I knew I had to say it because it was going to inspire somebody, right? So I said it, and then I went immediately to my closest friends, and I was like, will you please go comment on this? And like, even though it was my 5 closest friends commenting on it and telling me like, love your story, so inspirational, I knew that nobody else knew who those people were, and that it made me feel good. And then all of a sudden, so many other people felt like, oh my gosh, I want to read that. Why are they saying that? And they wanted to read it. And then that made me more comfortable sharing going forward. And people naturally were just drawn to see, what is she going to say next? I know it's going to be real. I know it's probably going to relate to me because, you know, I have my avatar on my page, right? So it's scary. It really is. But you have to do it, because if you don't, it just, this keeps happening. Like she's crying on here. That was me. That was me crying, talking to people. I would call Alexis all the time and I'd cry and I'd say, I want to say it, but I just don't know how. And I even said, I think I need therapy. And she's like, you think you need therapy? She's like, just talk about it. I'm like, well.
Yeah. and I'll give Mark back the microphone here, but I just want to mention Alexis actually did comment on this thread. Hinano is aspiring as F, because Alexis swears like a sailor. I love this woman. There's probably so many people out there that are just waiting for you to be brave enough to share this.
Yeah.
So, shout out.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, and so I mean, like that, Alexis. I love that. Hinano is aspiring as big. So what Hinano, what Alexis is saying to you is, holy shit, what is this girl's problem? Why isn't she already putting herself out there? Because she's knocked my socks off and I'm one of the top earners in this business. What does that say to you, Hinano?
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to get over it. And
get over yourself and put yourself out there, because you're doing people a disservice by squelching your power down. Let it out. And by the way, I hate other kids too. I love my kid. I think other kids are disgusting, and I think it's work. In fact, I target parents. If I see a shitty kid at the coffee shop, like I did this morning, I'm looking at the parent like, why aren't you getting up? You know? So we all got our judgment, and that's what makes us freaking cool. And there's people like us. Don't try to appease the people that aren't your tribe. You don't want them. They're going to be hell team members. They're going to want, and they're not going to give, they're not going to give. They're going to be, I've been doing everything, Hinano, and I can't be successful like you. You don't want those people on your team. You want people who are your tribe, and they will never pull that shit on you. And all you need to do is say what you just said. That's your homework. So everybody watching, you got that same thing. Everybody has what Hinanu just demonstrated. Everybody. Nobody's different. Everybody has it. Stop feeding the bad wolf. Stop giving excuses that you don't have a story or anything worth talking about because it isn't true. It never was. Shut up. Start focusing on what you want. Put your attention on what you want. Start connecting with your circumstances. And because it's like you can't watch grass grow, Hinanu, sometimes we need somebody to point out what is abundantly obvious to everybody else. You know, you didn't see something that was obvious to me and everybody else. You didn't see it. And that's one of the biggest problem beach body coaches have, is not seeing your value because you're trying to be something you aren't, because you're trying to connect with people you shouldn't, because you're just feeding the bad wolf. You're feeding thoughts that are irrelevant. What is relevant? What's your experience? That's what's relevant. Connect with it. When you connect with it and you speak it without asking for action, no free groups, none of that. Everybody stop with the agenda. Stop. Find your voice. Find your power. From that foundation, sky's the limit. In other words, there's no limit. But you only are limitless when you find your voice. Because when you find your voice, you can stand toe-to-toe with anything. You can't feel your voice if you're not connected or you're disconnected from your circumstances, from the things that people will identify with. You will continue to struggle until you stop. So stop. Everybody. Hinanu has just shown you what's inside of you. And if it's not freely coming out, stop. You do not move forward in this training until you get this. Because you are the X factor in every post you put up. And therefore, you are the X factor in the success that you allow or resist. And we talked about what allows and resists earlier. Judgment, compassion, appreciation, all those things. Judgment pushes, appreciation allows. Telling a story about what you don't want pushes. Telling a story about what you do want allows. Connecting with your power is what you want. Disconnecting from your power is what you don't want. We all have choices, and we all show up for ourselves in a way that feels comfortable. Now be uncomfortable. Lean into it. There's power in every bit of discomfort you're feeling. If you deny it, you are elongating how long it will take to become successful.
Hey, Mark, can we get to some questions, and I'll just fire them at you?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people on right now, and there's quite a few questions.
Yeah, I'm seeing all this. This is insane.
Well, and this is an emotional hangout. Let's be honest, and I love it. I love doing this stuff. This is so much fun.
Elise Erickson, gotta find my voice. Where is it?
Here, let me fire some out. Let's start with Daryl. Daryl Bart, you tagged me in this below, and you asked to get to it. And I want to kind of cover it. She mentioned about being vulnerable. She said, be more vulnerable. She hears people say, be more vulnerable and share your story. Being vulnerable in a consistent way seems contrarian to what she believes is what she should do on her page. And I think she may, and you could kind of chime in on this, but she said, I struggle with looking back with any regularity. Does this make sense? On the flip side, afterwards, I receive, great to meet you. People love her energy. I think she's looking at being vulnerable as dwelling on the past in the way she's framing it.
So if being vulnerable means dwelling on the past, that's only one form of vulnerability. It's
Right.
not necessarily talking about all the things that happened to you. It's also talking about what you want and where you actually are.
And what you're going through now, too, right?
And what you're going through right now, because guess what? If you're not going through something, you ain't living, and you're lying. You're just full of it. There's something going on. There always is. You're always feeling emotion, or you're dead.
And I will say, too, Daryl, it doesn't mean that it has to take away from your energy either. Like, you can look at Mark. I mean, Mark's just went through skin cancer. And
I'm going through skin cancer.
Yeah, and it hasn't affected his energy at all. I mean, this guy's got more energy than anybody I know. So I
do want to say that your life experience, you have to introduce it to people because they don't know you. So if you're unwilling to at least have that foundational video that dives into it so that people can see who you are, what you've been through, how you've gotten to where you are, where you want to go, and what you're bumping up against, they can't connect with you. So what's her name, Jesse?
It's Daryl.
Daryl. Until you open up, until you stop asking those questions, being vulnerable, however you need to be vulnerable, is what you need to do. It doesn't matter if you're somebody who doesn't, spend time dwelling in the past. You have to talk about things that people will connect with so that they can see where you are, how you got there, and where you're going. If you're not willing to do that, well, then figure something else out.
All right, let's do it. We're going to do
but don't resist the emotional assets that you have, because if you do that, you're leaving money on the table. And you're not doing, and just like Inanu, you're not doing anybody a service. It's not all about you, actually. You're an advocate for people. Show up.
All right, I'm going to fire some questions at you. Let's see if we can get through them as quickly as possible to kind of keep it under the hour mark or around the hour mark. This is from Mark White. Shout out to you, Mark. I see you in the training. You've been working your butt off. I can tell you're working on this and you're putting your heart and soul into here. Here's a great.
Yeah, he reached out to me as well. He's a cool guy. He's definitely got passion for this. So
yes, he does, and he's a dedicated father and husband. You can tell. His question is, this is a good one. It's about telling his story. Of course, he says, I've done some things I'm not proud about. It's hard to talk about some of it, and talking about my father is another tough subject. When I refer to this time in my life, should I leave people's names out, or should I let my emotions take over? He's an emotional person, and sometimes it gets the best of him. What's your advice for him?
So I am going to put in this very chat a post I did this morning, if I can find it.
Yeah, you guys, Mark Pescetti, he wrote a fantastic post. He went through divorce. And I'd like you to share that one if we can get that later too.
That's what I'm just going to put it in this thread. I'll find it.
Yeah.
The point is, so my ex-wife and I don't talk. And I pay her spousal support and child support, and I pay her a lot of money. I pay her way more than I'm legally required to because I always wanted them to be taken care of. And since then, my ex-wife and I have gone through toxic experiences, and I grew up homeless. I have been working since I was 10 years old. I have never asked for a handout, and I do not believe in the entitlement consciousness. Now, as an ex-husband, the law requires me to pay my ex-wife, spousal support. And so what I asked of her was to reduce the amount of spousal support she's asking for, since we're no longer having a relationship or even a friendship. I called her on the fact that she never even wanted spousal support. It was something that she said in her authenticity. And so I talked about it. And it doesn't make me a very popular person, because I don't believe that anybody should be given money and not feel the need to give anything back in return, or not give anything back in return. It's never okay ever in any relationship. And regardless of what the law says, it's my contention that people need to be empowered and self-sufficient. And when they choose not to be, everything that they fear is empowered. And my biggest thing with my ex-wife, even though we don't talk anymore, is I still want her to be empowered. I still want her to know she can take care of herself and never once question it. But she doesn't. She's a coach. She's a numerology coach. And she hides behind the facade of success that she created for herself, even though she's not that successful, not financially, she has good rapport with her clients. So she does great work, but she hides behind a false story. And that actually sabotages her from actually authentically being there, because she has to constantly hide her reality, which is not anywhere near what she communicates. So that's another thing. As Beachbody coaches, you never want to portray being more successful than you are. You're only where you're at. And the more authentic you are with that, the more you're going to be able to connect with people. But I talk about things that are uncomfortable all the time, Mark, and you never hide it. That's the answer. You never hide it. If you did it, own it. Period. That's the end of it. Period. Own it. Frame it in a way that you are giving value to people, but be open about it. If
Mark,
you think about it, here's the quickest way to deal with that question that everybody has. If you think about it, talk about it. Period.
Mark Pescetti, will you go through and kind of fire another question? I want Kelsey to answer that as well. Kels, how do you tell somebody who's uncomfortable about, I don't want to talk about this because this was my best friend when we were partying hard and blah, 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 and I don't want to bring her up, or, like, how do you bring up stories about other people without bringing up stories about other people too? Because we get that question quite often. In a way, can you share things without feeling like you're putting somebody else on the spot too?
Yeah, I don't ever use people's names. I would never say anybody's names, but I use general terms like family or friends, or, I say stuff like that. I personally, I never talk about my mom being an alcoholic, even though it had a big part of my past, because she still is, like, she still struggles with that. And so I'm not cool with saying that when I know everyone. I just said I'm not cool with it. So I think people are like, oh, if I'm talking about my past, I have to talk about everything. And it's like, yeah, I talk about my past, but I talk about pieces where I don't have to involve saying anything about her, and I still have a whole hell of a lot to share, right? So I just think, yeah, if you're worried about offending somebody, and I don't think it's necessary at all to use people's names.
No, I agree.
At all.
Kelsey wanted me to quick share this too, or not Kelsey, Alexis. She tagged me in it, so I got anything Alexis asks gets done. The debunking the vulnerability myths. Yes, we are totally exposed when we are vulnerable. Yes, we are in the torture chamber that we call uncertainty, and yes, we're taking a huge risk emotionally when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. But there's no question we're taking risks, braving uncertainty, and opening ourselves up to emotional exposure equals weakness. So I think the big takeaway here is exactly everything Mark's just been saying, right?
Yeah.
This is actually your book, isn't it, Mark? But it's a great quote. I mean, it's a what book is this again, Alexis? Because I think I've read this. I've gone through, I do more audiobooks, so I can never really identify what it looks like from a chapter standpoint. But while we get back to that, Mark, fire away any more any other questions you see that would be relevant right now for the last few minutes we're on?
Well, Mark just had a follow-up question of, can I do hold on. Can you go live too much in a day, and can you be too vulnerable? The answer is no. You go live as much as you are authentically compelled to. If you have something to say, say it. If you don't try to look for reasons to go live. The more you integrate this into your daily lifestyle and make it a routine, the easier it'll be to be like, wow, I need to get that out there. And you'll know it. You'll just feel, I need to, hold on, I'm gonna go quickly live. And by the way, don't do it sitting down. Wherever you're at, if you're in a city, if you're in town, I'm always walking with this thing in my face. And I'm
still waiting for someone to like come and tackle you, or you get hit by a car though.
It's almost happened a few times.
Yeah, you're the best I've ever seen at walking and talking.
I'm that idiot that's crossing the road, not realizing that there's a world going on around me, and I put my shoulders up and it's like, oops, sorry. And it's all on live video.
I want to just chime in a little bit on that last part. I think there is probably I think you're better off being strategic about sharing things too. Like, you don't want to just dump everything on a Monday and then forget about the rest of the week too. Like, you do kind of want to, if you have a really good life, like my wife, you have to remember too, with Facebook, you also kind of want to tailor some of your better posts to when your audience reacts. Most people, it's in the evening that you're going to get the biggest, most reaction and the most reach. Usually people, I think it's 100 million people every night are logged on between 7 and 9 p.m. Not not to go against anything Mark said here, because he's just saying if you feel inspired, go. Also remember, you can record yourself. It doesn't have to be Facebook Live. Any type of video is going to do well. Now, you'll get more love with Facebook Live, but I think you just want to kind of be strategic about it. One thing you can do, go ahead.
I disagree. I think that they should only do live, because
I mean, there's some things you can and can't do.
And it's not a matter. I mean, I used to record videos and then put them up just out of insecurity.
No, I agree. I agree, though. Live is the best way. But some people, they do.
Well, in terms of learning, in terms of getting over the
No,
discomfort,
completely agree.
best way to do it is to dive in, go live.
Yeah, no, I
Go
completely
live, baby. And by the way, everybody, I know there's a lot of questions of on this thread here, on this thread. There's a lot of questions. I have these circumstances. I have these circumstances. I have these circumstances. The answer is, it's your life. This is your experience. Frame your life and your experience in a way that is respectful to the people that are in your life. You don't need to talk about them. Like if you are like, there's one person talking about her husband, Lisa Phillips Sinclair. What about if it's your husband? I have so much to share, but it's not comfortable with some things, especially when it comes to finances. Get over it. Those are the 3 words that you need to write down on your mirror and go look constantly. Get over it. You're not going to, first of all, Lisa, you love your husband. You're with him. If you're not, get a divorce. And you are here to show people who you are. This is your reality that you're creating. Do not resist abundance because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. Now, you don't need to call your husband out and say, he's a shitty husband because he hasn't been able to give me as much money as we both want. That's life. We all bump against those challenges. When I was still working, I had a job here and there, let's see, I was 25. I'm thinking, my wife and I had made horrible mistakes with money. I made bad business decisions. I maxed out credit cards. I lost all of our savings. I just made really bad decisions. And I didn't go get a job. I went to the coffee shop every day and I wrote a shitty ebook. It wasn't that good. It really wasn't. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know what copywriting was. I didn't even know what content writing was. I just started writing stuff. And so 2 weeks away from not being able to pay rent. 4 days after we were able to pay rent, 6 months later, we had 200 grand in our pockets. Because I showed up. I didn't know the answer. I knew I was not a good provider. It made me feel horrible. I felt like the scum of the earth. I have this beautiful wife, this beautiful daughter who is the most precious human being on the planet to me. And, this was like also around Christmas. And I just felt so bad. Like I can't buy my daughter, my 4-year-old daughter who thinks Christmas is so magical. I can't buy her presents, but instead I was able to spend like almost $2 grand on presents. But I didn't know that until I showed up, until I went toe to toe with my story.
Mark, I want to actually kind of piggyback on what you just said there. 2 things before we kind of wrap it up. First of all, Mark didn't win the lottery. Just to clarify, he sold his ebook and he got $200,000. So he online. So just so we understand that. And the other thing is, it's like talking about finances. I think I read a statistic in like Money Magazine or something that 76% of Americans they have like less than $500 in their bank account, in their savings account, and they have and most of them are paycheck to paycheck. Meaning, if they lose their job, they're SOL. So if you talk about things like that or what you're doing about your finances or sharing about some struggles, my parents had to go through bankruptcy. Nothing they're proud of, but they had to do it. My dad owned a business. It didn't work. And, they came after him. So, stuff like that is common. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just real. That's the reality that most Americans face. So when you talk about stuff like that, just share it. Share what you're doing about it. Share the situation you're in and what you are doing about it. And that's what really motivates and inspires people from that aspect.
And Jesse, you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people deal with that. So there are identification factors. So if you don't talk about them, you're lessening the impact that you can create in building your business.
So Mark, last question. You mentioned identification of factors a lot. And I've seen some people, asking, like, is there secret questions to be asked? First of all, you guys need to remember, it's not about the questions, it's about the answers you are giving and what you're saying and like the identification factors. You look at Mark hardly asked really any questions other than he just had her kind of speak her mind. And that's what you need to do.
And you have to be uncomfortable because like I just was with Inanno, I knew she gave me an answer that wasn't true. You can't accept the knee-jerk responses that the people you interview give you. You have to challenge them. And if you don't, you're not doing yourself or anybody else a service.
So like I've seen some people posting in here, you know, like how do I share my story or how do I do this? So hopefully you're getting more about this, and watch this again if you don't know, and go through module 2 again. Get interviewed, start speaking, and start being real.
And start posting some of your interviews, guys. If people are having problems with the interview process, post them and I'll critique the shit out of them.
So Mark, to wrap this up, will you identify or kind of define what an identification factor really is so people can wrap their heads around it even better?
So an identification factor are the circumstances you're going through, the circumstances you've been through, and the circumstances you want. Those are identification factors. An identification factor for Hinano is being a stay-at-home mom and feeling like she lost herself. There's an identification factor. That's a circumstance that a lot of people, men and women, go through in their lives and are experiencing right now. So when somebody speaks it clearly, they're going to connect with it. And remember, and I said at the beginning of this whole hangout, people will not listen to a word you say unless you connect with them first. Well, now you got their attention. Now you got their like. Now you own that media and you can advertise to it until the end of time. So, but you want to make sure that you're building media. In other words, you're building likes that are people who genuinely connect with what you're going through, but genuinely connect with your circumstances, but genuinely connect with your challenges and your desires and your breakthroughs. Because if they connect with them, they're your tribe. And therefore they're going to be ultra responsive. That's how you make sales.
So identification factors kind of in a nutshell is things that create emotional triggers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm
a copywriter. Let's say I struggle getting work. That's an identification factor. I'm a divorced dad and I have problems with my one-time family. That's an identification factor. That's a circumstance I'm going through. Whatever circumstances you're going through, those are things that you can talk about. That doesn't mean you have to talk about them. Talk about what you have the most passion about, where you want to create the most impact, where you want to be an advocate for people. And I don't care if you are a stay-at-home mom who's currently making $12,000 a year. You are an advocate for people. You are a leader. Own it. Own your circumstances. Don't be afraid to talk about anything, but talk about it from your experience. Do not use names or blame other people because it's not their fault. It's yours. Take responsibility. Show your ability to respond and create your life, and people will sign up with you so fast it'll make your head spin like the friggin' Exorcist.
All right, guys, to wrap that up, and you could tell a lot of energy here, a lot of emotion. But, you know, I think I could argue that if you're getting interviewed and you don't have some tears and emotion, you're probably not doing it right.
That's why I'm saying post your interviews here, guys. Let's see what you're doing.
Yeah, and let's do it under one comment. So, Mark, why don't you just post in there and say post your interviews here in the group?
Yep.
If people want to, and then they can just post it below there rather than kind of populating it all with interviews, so people can just put it in the comments. Here's the plan for the rest of the week, you guys. We're going to have another hangout on Friday, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I have a top coach. My wife's going to be on. We're going to have a lot of great people on that are going to provide you a ton of value. We're going to really dive into, think of this hangout as more of the emotional aspect, and on Friday it's going to be more of the rational step-by-step stuff to really get a live video going really well, to set them up well, how to do things, and how to pull and create really awesome live videos that people will engage with. So we're going to go through that on Friday. Module 3 is being recorded. There are some updates going on in the Power Editor that prevent me from pressing forward with total completion of Module 3 yet, because I need you guys to see every screen. I walk you through everything step by step by step by step. So you know exactly what to do. It's super crystal clear. It's literally me recording my screen. So I'm not talking to you on here. I'm walking you through everything so you know exactly how to get it done. So keep working. I promise you this will get out, and you guys are going to get so much information. You're going to be, wow, I don't even know where to start. But it's going to be very good. It's going to be all updated because Facebook does update a lot, and that's one thing. You guys are all lifetime members. You're going to get all the updates. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Hinano. This has been awesome. I love these hangouts. I love having Mark on because you can tell I don't have to do much work. No, I'm kidding. But it's a lot of fun. These are a blast. Mark, I hope to get you on another one, please.
Anytime, brother.
All right. So you guys
Just
have
like
any other
Michael
questions?
Jackson. I'll be there.
Oh, well, I don't know about your singing. You're good at teaching. But thank you guys so much. Seriously, this is a lot of fun. Crazy engagement on here. I really enjoy it. If you're watching the Hangout on a recording, I hope you're loving it as much as we have been doing this for you. I'll see you guys in the group, and I'll announce what time the next Hangout is today. Cheers everyone.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.